Welcome, everybody, to Hey USA, our season one finale. As always, I'm Nick Garcia, senior writer, Play USA, and I'm joined with Play USA's lead writer, Brant James. Brant, can you tell everybody what we got going on today?
Got a big season one wrapper. We're bringing on Mike Mazzeo. He's the lead writer at Play New York. Always something going on being in New York. I'm told that if you can make it there, then there's a high probability then you might be able to make it virtually anywhere. New York, New York. So we're going to bring him on. He's got a lot to talk about. He's also the new guy. I don't think HR is making us do this, but he should know this stuff. So let's just pitch him some softballs and let him crank them out.
Let's do it.
Mike, thanks very much for joining us. I'll just start with the essay type question. It seems like a lot's going on in New York. Some deadlines, very important sports betting deadlines are coming up. What is the latest?
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me, guys. So, earlier this month, all the bids were submitted, 6 bids to the New York State Gaming Commission. And now they'll be going through everything. All the bidders will be making formal presentations around September 1st. I think they kind of hedged a little bit just in case there's something that comes up, but that's the expected date. And then I think they would love to have everything wrapped up by December 6th. The key date, I think, again, going to the Saratoga Racing and Gaming Conference this past week, State Senator Dabo, who's been a key proponent of getting mobile sports wagering in New York, up and running, they want to get it done by the Super Bowl on February 13th. I think that's, a hard deadline. He spoke with urgency in his voice and said, we need to make this happen. So I think they, again, they probably love for earlier than that, but the Super Bowl is really the day that I think they're focusing on. Again, I think you saw last year, $4 billion wagered on it. So, they want to get a piece of that pie and see how it does. Certainly they could put a ton of marketing behind it as the launch day.
Nice. I think Mike's batting 1 for 1 right now. Mike, obviously the big controversy there in New York is the resignation of Governor Cuomo. How much do you think that's going to play into anything, any deadlines or anything like that?
Right. I'm thinking talking to experts, lawmakers, I think they don't expect the transition to Hochul as a problem in trying to get this thing across the line. There is one thing to note is that, as Assemblyman Pretlow, who's, again, another proponent of getting this mobile sports wagering, thing underway in New York, said was, the difference between the bill that they proposed and the one that Cuomo, who's outgoing, decided to take is the difference between heaven and hell. So the guys that, started this thing, wanted to go one way, which was open competition. And then, I think Jersey has a 13% tax rate. I think they would have wanted to go in that direction where they give everybody a chance. And then Cuomo decided to go more in the 50%, which is incredibly high with the closed competition where they're going to pick a certain amount of skins. So that is something where I think they're too far down the line to change it.
Yeah.
But I think in a perfect world, they would like to go back because Cuomo's out now to what they wanted to do in the first place. So that's, something interesting to consider here.
On our show, we understand that things like tax rates and different percentages are very important, but we talk too much about numbers. My nose starts to bleed. Nick gets this kind of crazy itching thing. It's really uncomfortable to watch. We'll just say that the tax rate situation proposed in New York, I believe, is going to be pretty high. And it almost seems like it's created a situation where there's dream teams of bidders and very unlikely allies, perhaps joining together to try to get some of these licenses. If you could just run us through that without making me bleed and him itch, that'd be super.
Yeah, so I guess, I think the two wide favorites are the FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, and Bally's bid, supported by the Yankees, the Bills, and the Sabres, and Yes Network, which had the Yankees games on their air. So that is a massive conglomerate. And I think that's obviously the number one pick. I mean, you'd be shocked, right? Because I think they have like 80% of the market. So if they don't get it, it would be stunning. Then you have the Canby bid with Caesars, Resorts World, all those 5. And that's another favorite, right? And then I think the most intriguing of the groups is the Fanatics bid, as you guys kind of touched on, given that they've added Matt King, the former FanDuel CEO, to the mix, and then obviously Jay-Z as vice chairman. They're really making a push in several marketplaces, but sports betting, trying to open a sports book is definitely one of them.
Would New York ever say no to the king of New York and Jay-Z?
Again, they're not in those huge consortiums, but I think it'd be hard to keep them out.
Yeah,
they're a major player. The Nets have a partnership with them already. The Nets are one of the key teams in New York with the big 3 superstars. They're title contenders. So they have a relationship with Fanatics. And, I mean, given that they're growing and they have $18 billion, dollar evaluation recently, and Jay-Z pouring in among the investors to pour in 325 million into their company, which is how they're able to expand. What Michael Rubin's been able to do with this. Again, this seems like the future. If it's not here today, in 5 years, you might look and say Fanatics is right at the top. So it might be one of those long-term plays where maybe it's not as lucrative right now, but down the line, I think you could see it being extremely lucrative given the dynamic and the team they put together.
I mean, I would think if they were able to pull this off with one signature from Alicia Keys, we've already got their first commercial. I mean, my goodness, are you going to be hearing that everywhere on sports talk radio in New York? New Jersey has been the thought leader for roughly 3 years since the fall of past, but Nevada actually obviously had gambling, sports betting before, but in the new wave, it's been New Jersey, and we know that they've been sucking a lot of money out of New York, and for that matter, Pennsylvania, even after Pennsylvania went live. If New York launches and becomes this juggernaut, I mean, how much of a hurt is this going to put on New Jersey? Because we've basically been told anecdotally for the last couple of years that New Yorkers are building a lot of bridges in middle schools in that state.
Right. I mean, look, I don't know exactly, obviously, at this point because it's so early. But I think one of the key points that Dabo touched on in Saratoga was that for New York being so far behind a few years now, they probably want to get it out 2018, being quote unquote 3 years behind. You have people going to New Jersey, so you have to get them out, and then you have people betting illegally through bookies, and you hope to get those people not only to New York but then keep them, with the New York legal books. So that's, something that is going to be really interesting, assuming everything gets done, to watch it play out.
Mike, could you just give us like a, one or two sentences on how you envision New York sports betting working? Do you ever think that they're going to go down the line and try to reinvent the wheel again and like get rid of this Cuomo system and do something new? Or do you feel like they're just going to roll with this, till the end of time?
Right. Well, one of the local casino owners in Saratoga, Jeff Garrell, who owns Tioga Downs, he kind of said he thinks in 2 years, sportsbooks are kind of come to state government and say these tax rates too high. We need to overhaul this thing. So again, down the line, perhaps, yes. I mean, especially if they pick a certain amount of skins and they don't pick Fanatics, and all of a sudden Fanatics is on the rise, and it's New York, and it's one of the biggest states with Florida and California. All the major players have to be in there. Everyone's going to benefit from that and win financially. So. I think certainly, yeah. I mean, could you see an audible? Perhaps, but that's I guess for down the line.
Nice.
Nick is in Chicago, and he's really struggling to get that casino, that really cool casino, landed, or anyone to really want to build it, for that matter, in Chicago. Knowing that the casinos are outside the city, the nearest one, I didn't measure it. It's a couple hours away, I think, depending on which way the traffic is going. But is there ever going to be a day where there's just this incredible, cool Manhattan casino, whatever, anyone ever be able to afford the land to build that? And for that matter, how much cooler would it be than the one in Chicago?
First off, it'd be way cooler, obviously, than the one in Chicago. No offense, Nick, but
well, of course, that answers itself.
But I think there was some legislation where they couldn't do anything till after 2023. But again, with the deficit that New York's facing, I feel like all bets are on the table at this point. And so again, could they go back and relook at that and decide, maybe it's not 2022, but hopefully you get the bulk of the work done. And maybe, again, I'm not saying this is going to get done at all. It's just be speculation on my part, but, 2023 for a New York casino, given what they're facing. Again, Hochul has a lot on our priority list, I'm sure, right now. But again, when you look at, quote unquote, maybe easy money coming in for the state, I mean, I think that'd be a home run move long term.
Thanks again, Mike Mazzeo from Play New York. Not going to let you go before you tell us, what are you working on fun? What should we be clicking on? And the folks can check down in the description to make sure they patronize.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me, guys. Certainly, we're following this New York ramp up for mobile sports betting, wire to wire, hoping this thing gets across the finish line. So my colleague Eric Ramsey and I did a search through public records and found that local New York teams and leagues are spending over $200,000 in lobbying funds. So, they're really trying to get this thing across the finish line. And then my bosses, Jess Wellman and Dustin Gauker, and myself went through, all 6 of the redacted bids, hundreds of pages of data, and tried to break it down for people in more of a simplistic format, especially for myself, even as a newcomer to this whole thing. So, our content's coming out pretty much daily, and you can check it out at PlanY and PlanY.com.
Thank you again.
Well, thanks again for having me, Mike. Yeah.
Thank
thanks
you,
for
guys.
coming.
Yes, this wasn't too terrible. We'd love to have you back when you guys get it all figured out up there.
Happy to be back, Brant, Nick, anytime you guys want.
Well, there you have it. Thanks again for watching Hey USA. This is our season 1 finale. Don't worry. We'll be back for season 2 after Labor Day weekend, just in time for football. Once again, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. Mike, Brant, thanks again. Everyone knows the drill.